This is the framework, the 5-bucket framework for business protection. Let's see if I can make that slide go away. There we go, the little slide symbol. You're welcome to screenshot this. This is what I walk my clients through, whether they're making millions of dollars a year in their business, or they're just starting off and forming their business entity and doing things, you know, the first couple of steps in their business. This is always the map that I go back to. And you'll see that the buckets are slightly different size. There's different things inside each one, but we'll talk about how they relate to each other and where we focus a lot of time and where we focus a little less time. The yellow arrows behind the buckets are just a reminder that you have to do what I call a rolling risk assessment of your business. Legal protection is not set it and forget it. Just like you don't put like one marketing plan in place for your business and never revisit that, right? Your business grows, it changes, your services might evolve a little bit. You revisit those things. Same is true of this framework. But once you understand the framework, you will be actually pretty good at recognizing which bucket you need to look into for some updated support or updated help in your business. So that's my goal for you. So bucket number 1, we're going to start over here with business structure, right? This is the foundation of your business. And the reason I always start here and I spend quite a bit of time here generally, we're going to make sure that we get all the way through this framework and leave time for Q&A, but is that 60% of small businesses in the US are sole proprietors. They don't even take the step to create a formal legal entity. Now, I'm not going to beat anybody up for that, right? I've already talked about why our legal system is not set up to support small businesses and entrepreneurs in the way that they need support. But understand that having a separate legal entity is the only way to separate out business liability from your personal assets. So if you own a home, if you have bank accounts with any money in them, if you are in a community property state and your spouse has bank accounts with any money in them or retirement accounts or anything else, you have got to take this first step of separating out your business liability from your personal assets. This is the only way. Putting a proper business entity in place, a legal entity in place, is the only way to tell the IRS, the government, our court system, your clients, my business is separate from my personal assets, right? And when you go to the step of having a legal entity in place, Zoe says they're ongoing costs, right? She's a sole proprietor. Totally. Yeah. And we can talk about what those are depending on where you're at. And if you're somewhere else in the world, by the way, there's often similar models, not always exactly the same. So for example, a lot of clients in Canada, they wouldn't set up an LLC. They don't have the limited liability company model in Canada. They're either a sole proprietor or a C corporation, right? In the States, we have the C corporation, we have an LLC. You can create what's called an S corp. Anybody heard of an S corp? It's actually a tax status, tax election status. It's not an actual legal entity, but it's a tax treatment status for your existing company. But the reality, how many of you have heard the phrase, individuals get taxed, corporations get wealthy? Anybody heard that? Individuals get taxed, corporations get wealthy. Janet says we have an S corp. Yes, Yannika's heard the phrase. So there is truth to that, you guys. Our tax laws are written so that people who form corporate entities get tremendous tax benefits, loopholes, all these ways to save money that you do not have access to if you're a sole proprietor, if you're doing everything as an individual. So just remember that individuals get taxed, corporations get wealthy, right? And understand that when you go to the effort of creating a legal entity, and let's be clear that in some states, it's not that hard. Like Wyoming, it's $50, right? To make a registration. In Missouri, it's $50. Doesn't matter what kind of LLC you're creating, right? They've got multiple models, $50 filing fee. That is not cost exorbitant. That is not going to keep anybody out of business. What's going to keep somebody from making the right decision is the information they have, right? Oh, Mississippi, $25. That might be the cheapest one yet. Right? In Washington, it's $200. Still not that expensive in my mind. Oh, Michigan, sorry. Yes. I promise at one point I learned my states. So, don't let the initial cost, thank you, Katie, for laughing with me. I really appreciate that. Don't let the initial fear of cost keep you from taking the step. It's actually generally a lot less expensive than you think it could be, depending on how much help you get. Of course, if you hire out and an attorney does this whole process for you, that's going to be more expensive than a do-it-yourself approach to your initial setup, right? But regardless of which approach you take, and I provide resources that help walk people through that process. So you're welcome to reach out if you are at the phase of needing support and you don't know where to start. I've got some guidance for you. And like I've got one of the resources inside of my online store helps people with the LLC setup process. So just don't let the idea of cost keep you from setting up your business the right way. The other thing that happens, which is a super fun surprise to most people, is that when they take this step of setting up a legal entity, they feel differently about their business. They relate to their business differently. And what it generally means is that they show up differently in their business in a way that is actually going to increase their success. I'm just going to say it that way. Without a doubt, they will be more successful than if they remain a sole proprietor. It is a mindset shift. And when somebody goes to the effort of doing a state level registration, filing things the right way, doesn't mean that you can't be successful as a sole proprietor. I will say that, right? But I mean, Sean, you could probably share your experience of how you felt about your business after setting up an LLC. I just went through another round with the client.
Yeah, I just felt just more confident and more clear, because I think I was like kind of like hiding, oh, no one's gonna care about me, or this is just a small thing and I'm just trying to help people and it doesn't matter. But once I filed it and got everything set up, I just felt so much more confident. And not that I had a lot of fear before, but I just felt like,
new
more
level, right? A new level of confidence.
More professional. Yeah, like I kind of knew what I was doing, even so it felt good.
Yeah. Well, and even that little step up, like I've had clients, especially several in California, who have gone through the process. And let's be clear, there are certain states like California or New York where you might need a little extra support depending on, what the requirements are. Or it might be a little bit more expensive, right? California has the franchise tax board fee of $800 right out of the gate. And the reality, though, is that the costs of doing business as a legal entity are returned, right, through tax savings, through some of the other ways that you can optimize a business. And so just understand that. And setup costs are expensible, right, against your income. So right off the bat, they become an expense in your business, which is helpful from an income standpoint. But what I was starting to say is I've had a couple of clients who, had been in business for years actually, but I helped them go through the process, and they would show up like in one of my Ask Me Anything live calls this past year and just be like, I don't have any questions. I'm just here to tell you that I finally did it. I set up my LLC and I just need to celebrate with someone. But they both have commented that they feel better in their business, right? And those are just two recent examples, but it shows up time and again. You actually relate to your business differently. You show up, like Sean said, a little more clearly, a little more confidently. It's a real boost up.